employees.
Okay. So I'm here with Nicole Dyson. Nicole is actually, what would you call yourself, Nicole? Founder? Co-founder?
Yeah. We think of it founder, director, doer of all the things.
Doer of things at Education Changemakers and Future Anything. And we're talking about the future of education and the future of work. And I guess the questions that I have around the future of work probably come later. What I'd be really interested in, if you're comfortable with it, Nicole, is if you could just give us a little bit of an overview of what Future Anything is and how it intersects with your work at Education Changemakers.
Yeah, for sure. So Future Anything started basically when I was an educator in school. And I remember teaching an all-boys English class, actually, and I'd kept two students back to repay back their time. They'd wasted it taking a nice 30-minute jaunt to the bathroom during class. And one of the boys stopped as he was completing his work and said to me, why are we doing this? And I remember thinking at the time that the right answer was because it's really important. But the reality was that the unit of work that we were studying at the time had little practical application to the young people that were in the room. And at this point in my career, I've been spending a lot of time redeveloping, programs to engage young people in school. And I had a bit of an epiphany where I realised, well, maybe if we just made learning relevant, we wouldn't have to battle so hard to engage young people. So I started working with curriculum and basically innovating curriculum in order to create authenticity and contextual relevance for young people. And the program that is now Future Anything was a Year 9 English unit. And initially the unit was looking at Indigenous representations in text, and the students were to deliver a monologue, basically regurgitating what they had learnt through that process. And what we did was use those Indigenous representations in text as a stimulus to look at marginalisation, marginalised groups, and how marginalisation in the present day was affecting our First Nations people. And from there, students designed their own social enterprises that closed the gap for a marginalised group of choice and pitched them in a Shark Tank. The data was incredible off the first year, and it's been that way in the way that we've tracked learning across the last 5 years. Typically, our strugglers in school increase by half a grade to a grade, and we get a 30% increase in attendance and a 50% decrease in behaviour referrals. Interestingly, our high-end performance, our gifted and talented young people, actually drop academically the first time they engage in our program because they find it really difficult to be creative, innovative, and to think divergently about solutions. They're so good at taking information and regurgitating it back in the right order that using design thinking methodology or coming up with creative solutions when there isn't an exemplar is actually a really huge struggle for our young people. I found this super interesting because if we're going to prepare people for the future of work where they need to have transferable skills and be able to apply their thinking in new and diverse circumstances, ultimately we don't need young people that can perform really well on tests. We need young people who can think creatively and critically. And so that's basically the platform for FA. And so we've gone from 100 students in our first year to working with close to 5,000 students this year. And part of our program is also working with their teachers to support them to adapt their pedagogical approach to learning to facilitate opportunities for ask questions, to dig into problems, and to independently find their own solutions.
Wow. That's incredible. I think the thing that's most inspiring for me in hearing the work that you've been doing is the way that you're creating a new educational approach, or perhaps in the educational lingo, a pedagogy for the future of work. And you mentioned to me before some of the alignment that you had found between the way you've been designing these programs and the work that the Foundation of Young Australians had done on the new work order, or these I think they were job styles or job roles, was it?
Yeah. So I think we've got, as educators, we have a number of core responsibilities. One of them is, I think, to expose young people to interesting humans that do interesting work. Because we all do what we do because we met somebody along the way that inspired us to follow the path that we follow. And the second thing that's really important is to give young people diversity of opportunity to engage in different roles and occupations. So a part of Future Anything, and also some of the pedagogical example, like the ways of using that pedagogical approach in just general classroom practice is in the application of the Foundation for Young Australians research around job clusters. And so, we can design project-based learning units where students actually dig into a particular cluster and explore all the roles and occupations that exist underneath that, I guess, umbrella of jobs in order for them to work out what they like and what they don't like and make informed decisions about pathways moving forward.
Amazing. What do you think this means for the way schools fundamentally work? I know you've had some involvement with a new school that's being built in Brisbane at the moment, the Fortitude Valley School. And it seems like just an incredible project, both in its ambition and its location and, functionally some of the constraints around how that physical environment needs to be set up to be a school of the future. If you think about those place dimensions or what the future classrooms might look like or how the school itself works as an operating system for learning, what are you seeing? What do you think is going to change?
Yeah, it's interesting. In speaking to educators, I always say that whilst Future Anything looks like an entrepreneurship program on the outside, it's actually just using entrepreneurship as a vehicle for young people to solve problems that they care about. Because that's what I believe young people need to be able to do, is solve problems. And in working with the education team, like the foundation leadership team for the new Fortitude Valley School, we've actually gone back to, what is our ethos around education? What sort of young person do we want walking out of our doors after their education experience at this brand new school? And part of that is their mantra is that they want bold, resilient and kind young people that are connected to their community. And so the question then becomes, what does the learning have to look like to explicitly facilitate opportunities for young people to build their capacity in those spaces? And then additionally to that, what does the learning spaces look like to facilitate those opportunities as well? And I think we have a risk where when we think about innovative learning, and we focus a lot on the extrovert side of that, so collaborative group work and getting up and speaking, and we also need to be mindful of the spaces that we create in order to enable students focused time to work independently as well. And so it's that balance between collaborative work but also focused, quiet time in order to dig into significant tasks.
Yeah, there's a lot of literature and research in the commercial real estate space around this concept of a desk for a task, or designing activity-based working offices so that you move through the office for different types of work that you have to do. Do you think there'll be different types of spatial requirements for those job clusters you mentioned before, or more specifically, the learning styles that people have?
I think that it's probably more to do with the phases of learning within a curriculum unit. Despite what pedagogy you want to call, whether it's project-based learning, deeper learning, et cetera, it's really about pedagogy for purpose. Like, what is the purpose that we're trying to achieve in the learning environment right now? What pedagogical or spatial, what pedagogical approach do we need, and then what space will enable that? And in any unit of work, regardless of the content, it's actually about, I guess, thinking about the environment and the pedagogy that best facilitates that space for young people. So I don't think it's curriculum specific. I think it's more purpose specific. What do we need students to be able to achieve at the end of this lesson? Okay, cool. How are we going to do that, and where is the best place?
Yeah. So final question, and then I'll let you go because I know you have to jump on a plane. If you were to imagine in, say, 3 years or however many years' time, and you're walking into, so maybe the Fortitude Valley School, could be any school, and it has been designed specifically to deliver the kind of work that you are doing at Future Anything, or maybe even more broadly in your education practice. What does it look and feel like? If you would imagine walking through it from the front gate to your classroom, what do you see?
Look, I think it's definitely multi-purpose spaces for different purposes, but I think that maybe the key to unlocking what a great school is compared to maybe a school that's not great is who's leading the learning. And the myth that it's the educator, but actually I think what I would love to see in 3 to 5 years when I walk through Fortitude Valley is students leading their learning. So these open spaces where they're making decisions about what they need to use and when they need to use and how they're going to use the different facilities in order to deliver products or solutions or whatever that actually drive them and connect to their passions and interests. So, yeah, I think it's more about who's driving the learning in the spaces, who's owning that space, and what are they creating as a result of using it.
Amazing. Super exciting. Nicole, thanks so much for your time, and would be great to see you again or speak to you again if you're ever in Singapore. Please let us know, and be great to chat again soon.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hopefully in November for EduTECH Asia. So I'm looking forward to getting over to that side of the world and collaborating with organisations and schools in that space.
Fantastic. We'll put it in the diaries and make a time.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Nicole.